Now, if you are interested about learning African herbal medicine and looking for some books that can help you on that journey, then you're in the right place. In today's video, I'm going to talk about books that cover not only the whole of Africa, but East, West, and also Southern African herbs. Now, you know me, I don't waste time. My name is Najeli. I'm a medical herbalist. Now, let's get right into it. Now, the first set of books are books that cover herbs from all around Africa. The first one I'm going to mention is the African Herbal Pharmacopoeia, and this is written by the Association for African Medicinal Plant Standards. Now, you can actually get an e-copy of this book for free by going to this website and emailing the address listed. I like my hard copies, and so I decided to purchase a copy of this book for £23. Now, what I like about this book is that, of course, you have the name of the plant, the common names of the plant. You also have images of the plant and also information on the constituents and the pharmacological studies, as well as the traditional uses of the plant. But what makes this book a little bit unique, which I really appreciate, is it also tells you the distribution of the plant across Africa. And then when you go to the end of certain chapters, you also have references in terms of where they got the information from. So if you're someone that likes to do a lot of research, you could also use this book to find out a bit more detail of the plant because the references are listed. The next book that I'm going to talk about that covers herbs from all around Africa is a book that whenever I asked for such resource and whenever I asked for recommendation came at the top of every single list. And that is the Handbook of African Medicinal Plants by Maurice M. Iwu. Now, this book will set you back quite a bit. So it's between £80 to £124 is what I found for the cost of this book. But if you keep having a look around, you will find the odd occasion where the book comes around much cheaper. The cheapest I've ever seen it is £50. But this book, I would see it as an authority in terms of African herbal medicine because the amount of books that I have read, I have noticed that a lot of books are actually referencing this and even copying some of the words word for word. Now, what you will have in this book is one, you'll have a table at the beginning of major African plants across Africa. It gives you the name of the plants, their uses, and the parts of the plant that's used. And then in the middle of the book, you will also have like a detailed monograph of about 200 plants. Now, what I love about this book is not only does it contain information on the pharmacological studies done on the plant, the constituents, but also the traditional uses, as well as the names. One thing that makes it different from this particular book is that it also contains the names of plants in various languages across Africa. So you've got, for example, this plant is Chrysophyllum albidium. In Ashanti, it says it's called Adesawa. In Bini, it's called Otien. In Ewe, it's called Adansawa. In Igbo, it's called Udara. And Yoruba, it's called Osan. So it talks about it from all sorts of perspectives. And then at the end of the book, you have a nice detailed chapter that sets the context in which African herbal medicine takes place. So if you want to learn about the culture and the heritage and the different views in certain aspects of illness, this book will give you that information. But like I said before, it is a very expensive book, between £80 to £124. But if you find one for £50, snap it up. Now, the next set of books that I'm going to talk about are books that are referencing the herbal uses or the herbal medicine in East Africa. Now, the first book that I like to talk about is An Illustrated Guide to Medicinal Plants of East Africa by Najama Darani Abi Yenisil. I love this book for a number of reasons. One thing, I think it's brilliantly priced. For a book with this much information, it's great. You'll find it between £15 to £23. Now, not only, as you could tell by the name, does this book have a lot of images of the plants, which I really appreciate. It doesn't just give you the image of the plant when it's in flower. It also gives it to you when it's in seed. It gives you various stages of the plant's life. So I think that's very helpful when it comes to identifying plants across the seasons. Now, it also gives you the constituents. It also gives you information on the traditional uses of the plants, as well as any cautions on what pharmacological studies are saying about the plant in particular. I also like the fact that it contains information on the plants in the various languages, focusing on the main languages in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. So this is an example of the Gardenia tenafolia image, where you can see information on the pharmacological studies and what compounds have been found, but also gives you information on the preparations and dosages. So this is an illustrated guide to medicinal plants of East Africa. Now, the next book that I'm going to talk about is The Medicinal Plants of East Africa by John O. Kwakwaro. Now, the reason why I got this book is because when I was doing a lot of my research, I found that this book was being referenced quite a lot. So I thought to myself, in terms of the study of African herbal medicine, this is a book that you need to get. The price, I think, is on the upper end. You can get it between £40 to £70. Now, one of the benefits of this book is literally the amount of plants that it talks about. Like, it's a lot. Just this page alone, there's probably about 10 plants being referenced. But the reason why it's able to cover a lot is because I don't believe it says much about each plant. It gives you the name of the plant family, the name in various East African languages, and also maybe a few lines on how it's used traditionally. And the images of the plants are all in black and white at the back of the book. And then you'll also get a section where you can search the plant by its traditional name. So if you only know the plant by its traditional name, you can go to the back where there is like a glossary or an index, and you can search it in that way. There's also a glossary on what the terms mean and so on. So the benefit of the book is the sheer amount of plants that it talks about, where you might not find it talked about in other areas. You might likely find it in this book, but yeah, no colored pictures. The pictures are not even next to the plant. Literally, it will say something like Fig 92, and then you have to go to the back, look for Fig 92, and you'll see a black and white image of the plant. So yeah, it is referenced a lot, partly in Fig because of the amount of plants that it talks about that you might not see talked about elsewhere. But yeah, and it's between 40 to 70 pounds. Now, the next book is a book that covers plants from Southern Africa, and this is Medicinal Plants of Southern Africa by Ben Erik van Wyk, Bosch van Altschon, and Nigel Gericke. This is the book. Now, this book, again, I like because for a number of reasons. One, it's got loads of images and images of its various uses, various parts of the plant, various parts of processing. It's just not just one single image. It also talks about the pharmacological studies, the constituents, gives you references if you would like to research further. But I also like the fact that it tells you whereabouts in Southern Africa the plant is from. And you also have it in various languages as well, although it's not that many, like 3 Afrikaans, English and Zulu. And then another one is just English and Zulu. But as you can see here, it's not just the plant, the flowering plant. You also can see some of the bulbs and what it looks like. But yeah, it gives you the information you need in terms of traditional uses, the pharmacological research on it, the constituents, as well as the habitat and where you can find it. Now, this book was between 20 to 30 pounds. But I did also find that somebody was trying to sell it for 50 pounds. I don't know what's going on there. So if you're looking on a book that will cover some of the plants within Southern Africa, giving you its distribution, what it looks like at various stages, including when it's during the preparation process, this is one of the books that you can get that I think, considering it's also relatively reasonably priced as well. Now, the next book that I'm going to talk about is a book that covers medicinal plants in West Africa. And that is Medicinal Plants in Tropical West Africa by Bep Oliver Beve. Now, this book was about $45.99, and I'm not sure how I feel about that price. It was a book written in the 1980s, and I would say that the thing with this book is, one, there's not many images, and the occasional image that you do see is in black and white. There is a big, heavy focus on the pharmacological element of it, which I understand was the focus of much of plant science then, rather than the cultural element. So although it will talk about the traditional uses of the plant, it's very much organized by its actions, whether it's anti-cholinergic, is it antibacterial, is it antimicrobial. So that is how the book is organized. If you look at the contents page, it's literally plants containing hypoglycemic phytosterol glycosides. Plants acting like hormones of the adrenal context, and it lists West African plants that fit within that. So if that is your preference, or that's how you like to use the book, or that's how you prefer it to be organized, then this would be the book that you can get, and it's $45.99. Now, the next set of books are books that cover specific countries that I have. And the first one is the Ghana Herbal Pharmacopoeia. And this is a book that, as you can see, I have basically destroyed. And what I like about this book is, again, it has the information on the plants. But why I got this book in particular is that it gives the information in various Ghanaian languages. And then when I first started, one of the problems I had is I knew what the Ga name for the plant was, but I didn't know the botanical name or anything like that. And this is one of the books that helped me link the traditional name for the plant with the botanical name. It's also got information on the constituents. It's got chromatography profiles. It's got traditional uses of the plants. What I would say is the book was written in 2015. And a lot of the references are much older, like from the 80s and a couple of early 2000s and so on. So some of the references are slightly older. But in terms of a comprehensive book on Ghanaian herbal medicine, this is this is the book. I don't know of an equivalent that is this well organized by the plant name. It gives you the common names, the family, the names in various languages, the description, the uses, and also the chemical constituents and so on. So, but the problem is this book is very hard to get. So you can get it for Ghana, and then you can get a few copies here for £40, but there's not many copies and it's very hard to get. So if you're lucky to be able to find this book, you are in for a treat. The next book covers Zambian plants. So I am planning to do a video on Zambian plants. And so I had information on some of the most common plants used in food and herbal medicine and decided that, okay, I need to do a little bit more research. What can I find? So I found this book. It was $45.99, but I think it's defined by the fact that it is not easy to get. So that dictates the price people are charging. And it's Zambian Plants, Their Vernacular Names and Uses by Dennis G. Fowler. And if I'm to be 100% honest, this is one of my least favorite books. In fact, it is the least favorite book, and I'll tell you why. Now, it's split into like 3 main sections. The first section is the name of the plant, and then it's coded. Like, I'll give you an example of a box here. So literally, it'll give you the name of the plant, and then it will have like B, L, M, and then basically those refer to the languages. So when you see B, then it will give you the name B. I think B is Bamba. I don't know, man. And then you've got like F, M, and M means it's medicine. So if you see an M, then that means it's being used as a medicine. That for me is just overly complicated. Are there even any? I don't think there's even any. The images that are in this book are on the front and the back. And then there's a section where you can search by the traditional name of the plant, and then it will give you the botanical name. So it's got Kafua, LOTK, and it's called Canthium glaucum. So if you know the traditional name of the plant, you could then use that to do more research in terms of what information is out there. And then at the back, it also splits the names of the plant according to the diseases that they're used for. So bladder and kidney, and it lists all the herbs. Bleeding, and then it lists all the herbs. And so if you want to find the botanical name for a Zambian plant, you can use this book. If you want to see what Zambian plants are used for certain conditions, you can use this book. If you want to check a plant and see whether it's got medicinal or food uses, you can use this book. But the interesting thing that I found that's making me a little bit is that the plants that I have wanted to talk about and do research on and got the Zambian names from a Zambian person, I now went to go to this book to try and corroborate what I've researched so far and couldn't find half of them. So I think there is also an element that because this book, how old is this book? Was done in 2007, there might be some new names for it or so on. But even with the most common plants and herbs used in food and cooking today, I couldn't find it in this book. So yeah, it has its uses, but it's just a very, very difficult book. I find it difficult, not fun. And then last but not least is a book that covers the medicinal plants in Nigeria, and that is Medicinal Plants of Nigeria, an ethnobotanical survey and plant album by Anselm Adodu. Now, this book is very beginner friendly. It's about £13. And what you'll get is the images of the plant. You'll get the botanical names. You get the common names. You've also got the names in the various languages. However, considering how many languages are in Nigeria, I do feel that they could have done more diversity in the languages, because most of it only covers like the Yoruba, Igbo, or Hausa name. You do find Edo in other languages. So this one is like, okay, you can see some Edo, but Yoruba and so on. So I felt like there could have been more languages. It could have been a bit more diverse than that. But it does talk about the local uses of the plant. In some of them, it talks about the chemical constituents. And again, you get some of the images of the seed, but also in its habitat. And then you've also got references if you want to research more. And it's also got information on the cultural element of it, the idea of traditional medicine, how it's practiced in Nigeria, and what to consider when it comes to African herbal medicine. Some of the plants, though, literally, you've got this one, it's family, botanical name, and common name. That's it. It doesn't give you anything else. So the information is very basic, but considering it's £13, I think it's not bad for it. And so, in summary, books covering individual countries are Medicinal Plants of Nigeria, Zambian Plants, Their Vernacular Names and Uses, as well as the Ghana Herbal Pharmacopoeia. The books we have covered on West Africa are Medicinal Plants in Tropical West Africa. The books that we have covered in Southern Africa is Medicinal Plants of South Africa here. The books that we have covered in East Africa are Medicinal Plants of East Africa by John Kokwaro, and also an illustrated guide to medicinal plants of East Africa. And the books that we have covered in terms of Africa in general are the African Herbal Pharmacopoeia and the Handbook of African Medicinal Plants. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, thumbs up. Always welcome to have feedback. Oops. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to comment, like, subscribe. And also if you enjoy African herbal medicine, please feel free to watch some of the other videos. And if you have a recommendation of a book that you feel I should include, please let me know, because just feed my book addiction. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.